Hi, guys, and welcome back to the That's Where I'm At podcast. Today, I want you to meet an extraordinary individual, a former attorney and recipient of the Governor's Award for Advocacy with Survivors of Domestic Violence who triumphed over narcissistic abuse. With two marriages to narcissists behind them, they've harnessed the transformative power of emotional freedom technique, which is EFT, to guide others on their path to healing and personal growth. Prepare to be inspired by their journey and expertise in EFT. So I want to welcome to the show Stephany. Stephany, I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, thank you, Laura. Thank you for having me here today. It's an honor to be here and to share my story.
I'm really excited for people to, to hear your story because of course we all have a story and then we all learn things from it, and I think you have a lot to share with us about, like you said, your marriages and then how you've overcome and where you're at now. So I'm excited for all that and what you're going to share with us today. So let's just start out. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, thank you. Well, for years I was living a completely different story through a lens of why me. And it's only recently that I feel like I've been able to break that pattern of calling people into my life through relationships
Mm-hmm.
that will teach me about owning this as my story. Because, for a long time, I didn't want to accept that this was my story,
Okay.
So my story, not someone else, of healing those parts within me that have had me feeling unworthy of love. So that, you call in people into your life who reflect that back to you over and over and over again, whether it's through their abusive words, through the manipulation, through the gaslighting, and through the feeling of just feeling like you're never enough. You're never enough for them.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, but I've learned that these two people that I used to refer to as monsters,
Right.
I've I've been able to look at them as the exact teacher I needed.
Right.
And I can say that now,
Right.
although, it's sometimes I don't. Sometimes I still go back and say, these monsters, these people,
Right.
but I have been able to say these were the exact teachers I needed at the moment. But
I like that you said that, though it's not something I want to hear, right? But I totally get where you're coming from. Um, I had a friend who was struggling the other day, just starting this journey of leaving someone who's been toxic in their life. And I'm just like, these people, these unhealthy people. But if we didn't go through this, I know I wouldn't be where I am. You know what I mean? And so thank you for pointing that out, like a different way to look at it, that yeah, they're monsters, but that was who we needed to be teaching us. What did you have, if I can ask a question? What do you feel like, what made you feel unworthy of love? Was that just your background? Did you grow up?
no, no, I come from a very, very, very stable family.
Mhm.
My parents are still married. They've always modeled healthy relationships. Um, and so for me, the unworthiness, I
Mhm.
believe, comes in when you are able to take a step back and look at your story through a different lens.
Okay.
And so, when I was able to make that shift, I was able to go and see the lessons. And so then when I look at some of these lessons that I've learned,
Mhm.
there is a worthiness. Like we are so much more worthy
Yeah.
of having good relationships, of having love, of being with someone who treats us with respect and with
Yeah.
kindness.
Yeah.
And so when I say unworthy, I say it as being in these relationships for a really long time and not leaving.
Right.
And so for a long time, I did not see my story through this lens.
Mhm.
For a long time, I was really stuck in that victim story of why me?
Right.
Why is this happening to me? Why am I in these relationships? Not just once, but I had it twice.
Right.
And my background in domestic violence, my background as an advocate and winning, the governor's award is only offered to one person one time a year,
Wow.
and so these are huge, big deals.
Right.
But I think sometimes we we can create these situations that we're allowing ourselves to be taken advantage of.
Right.
And so I think there was still a part of me, even though I had the background, I knew all of this, but maybe there was a part of me that was still drawn into the drama. I don't
Right.
know,
Right.
but I was drawn into the victimhood of what was happening to me versus what I could see what was for me.
Wow.
And so it wasn't until after 17 years within these two marriages and my second marriage ending in violence where I found myself, I actually went blind in my eyes.
Mhm.
So I was living in Florida at the time and I had sunburned my eyes. And the next morning I woke up and I couldn't see.
Oh my
I
gosh.
squinted my way to the eye doctor, and she's like, Stephany, your eyes are so inflamed and so destroyed right now. She said it looked like someone had taken sandpaper and just destroyed my eyes.
Wow.
So I couldn't see for 6 weeks. And so, I found myself blind. I was just sitting here, just in this rubble of my life. Like I lost everything in a hurricane, lost a bunch of things to a house fire, had a baby born with a disability. My my ex-husband's ex-wife died of COVID, and we got three extra kids.
Oh my
And so it
gosh.
was like, I was literally sitting here in this rubble of my old life and just
Right.
sitting in this mess, feeling like everything had been done to me,
Right.
blaming these two men, continually saying, why are they trying to destroy my life and destroy me? And I was just stuck in this victim mentality.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I kept asking, I'm like, God, whatever
Yeah.
you resonate with, God, source, the universe. But I just remember sitting there at my sister's house. I'm like, what is going on? Like,
Right.
this is such a huge mess. And now I can't see, like, is there something I'm missing here?
Mhm.
And so I think, it's during those moments when we can actually get quiet and we can just have this time to reflect.
Mhm.
And whether it's through losing everything or through
Yeah.
a physical manifestation like my eyes, me not being able to
Right.
see. And if we get curious and we start asking these questions, maybe, maybe we can see that there is something playing out right in front of us that we are missing. And so for me, I
Wow.
really felt like it was, Stephany, you need to see your story through a different lens. Like
Wow.
you're seeing, and I really believe that's part of, me losing my sight,
Right.
because I was just so stuck for so long in my victim story. I couldn't shift out of it. And so when I felt like God was saying, Stephany, see your story through a different lens,
Yeah.
see your story through a different perspective. Take the step back and look. And, as I started to do that, because, when you're stuck in the victim story, it's
Mhm.
hard to see the lessons.
Right.
It's hard to know what to heal,
Right.
and so many people are like, well, how do you know if you've been healed? How do you know what to heal?
Right.
And I've been in two marriages
Mhm.
with narcissists.
Right.
And so, but I couldn't see the lessons when I was living the victim story. And so
Yes.
as soon as I was able to step outside of that and make the shift,
Mm-hmm.
I could see these men in my life as teachers, what
Right.
I was saying before. I could see where I needed more compassion. I could see where I needed more forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I could see the patterns and the shifts of the story, that no longer serve me.
Right.
And so, I look at so many women out there, and men too, because it does happen to men,
Yes.
but it's,
Yes.
um, my world is women. But I see so many of us stuck in these abusive relationships, in these patterns.
Right. And that's what they are, right? That's as I've been doing a lot of healing work, I've noticed the patterns I've had in my entire life. So it wasn't just, let me reflect on the last 33 years with this person. But it's, God started showing me these are the patterns you've had all your life, and what does that look like? And not to shame us, right? Because
Yeah.
he'll help us to look at things so that we can make the changes, and he looks at us like we're his precious daughters, because we are, right? Because he cares for us. So when he points things out, it's not to put us into shame. And I've seen, I really like that you mentioned that, because there are patterns. And but it does, I love what you were saying about it does take the, I have to stop and look and see, like, this isn't serving me. What are the patterns I've had? So because for you to have two, right? And
Mhm.
I'm looking back on my life. I'm like, was every boyfriend like toxic for me? You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
well, I mean, I feel like I'm the same person, and I've always wanted to be loved and guys to pay attention to me and that kind of thing, right? That's a need I had. But and so, yeah, that was a pattern. So that's why I'm like, I'm not good for anybody right now. I got to get healed, because I don't want to attract someone who's going to be
Oh,
attracted to that needy part of me. I want them to like me for me. So, yeah, so thank you for pointing that out with the pattern. So what kinds of things were you finding?
well, so for me, one of the things was it was a pattern of unworthiness,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's so hard when we get in these relationships, because in the beginning there's all the love bombing, there's all
Yeah.
this stuff, and there's, oh, we're soulmates, we're this, we're that, and
Yes.
it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, and it's great.
And
And so
it feels
it's
good.
so good. Yeah, absolutely. But because of that, it's hard to see what's in front of us until maybe we lose it all,
Yeah.
and then that's when we pause, like I was saying,
Yeah.
and we have to get still, and we have to have that moment,
Yes.
if we're lucky enough to have it, and if you are willing to do the work,
Yeah.
and actually reflect back on your life and your experiences and your relationship. But you can have that moment where you can truly
Mm-hmm.
see it for what it is, where we can see ourselves. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's seeing ourselves for the very first time. And
Yes.
it's where we can shift from, instead of, the why me, why is all this stuff happening,
Yes.
why, I mean, there are so many times like, God, why is this happening to me, why am I going through this, why are they destroying my life, why are they doing this, like, I just want a peaceful, normal, typical life, like, I don't want any of
Whatever
all of
that
it.
is, right? But I love that. I'm the same. I said the same thing. I just want a normal, regular life.
Yeah, I'm like, with, like, I just I I I, I don't want
Yeah.
any of this,
Yeah.
and so for me, it was in that shift, when I made that shift, when I saw my story
Yeah.
through a different lens. One, my eyesight came back, and,
Wow.
and I really felt God was saying, Stephany, it is done. You have shifted the pattern.
Wow.
And that's why I'm here today. And that's why I want to share my story, because there
Yeah.
is so much freedom when you can say, I have shifted the pattern, it
Yes.
is done.
Right.
And that is how I want to help empower other women too. Like,
Yes.
let's get out of the victim mentality. Let's take a step back and
Right.
let's really look at our story.
I want to ask you because that sounds uncomfortable that may sound uncomfortable for people who are listening to sit and be quiet, right? In this world where we have a lot of stuff, garnering for our attention, to sit and be quiet and have to hear and reflect on ourselves, that may be uncomfortable for some people. And but I highly recommend doing it anyway, right? And I'm sure you
Well,
do too.
and I will tell you, as someone who was not completely healed and who did not shift the patterns when I went into my second marriage,
Yeah.
I thought I was healed.
Oh,
I
okay.
did a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
I manifested him.
Yeah.
I'm a great manifester. And you know what? I got exactly everything I wanted. I wanted tall. He was 6'3".
Yeah.
I wanted handsome. He's gorgeous. He's
Yeah.
got the smile and the dimples and all the charm that comes with it.
Yeah.
I wanted a divorced dad with boys because I'm a divorced mom with boys.
Mhm.
I was very specific.
Yeah.
And and I met him a week later after I put out my intention to God.
Wow.
I found he showed up and
Mhm.
he checked everything off my list. And guess what? God gave him to me with all the unhealed lessons
Yeah.
from my first marriage.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it might be uncomfortable, but I will tell you what is more uncomfortable: having a second marriage to a narcissist.
Right. Right. And I that's why, when people talk about that they've had this trauma or they will bring up their trauma and I'm thinking we're in our 50s, like, and I'm not trying to be a jerk and be like go deal with your trauma. But the thing is that it's more uncomfortable to carry that baggage around with you than it is to sit quietly or sit with a therapist or both, sit quietly and with a therapist or whatever other thing to sit and talk about it and think about it and really release it from your life.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing for me is learning new things about this feels stuck in my body. I feel like it's in the pit of my stomach or whatever, and to try and get it out, that kind of thing.
Well, as so I am an EFT practitioner, and
Uh-huh.
EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques.
Okay.
And what you have just described, Laura, is exactly what I do with clients.
Okay.
And so we will do that. We will sit and get still and see what comes up.
Yeah.
And then through tapping, so I don't know if you can see me right here. So we
Yeah.
tap
And
on
you
the
guys can go check
meridian.
YouTube and stuff. And then yeah,
Mhm.
describe where you're tapping.
Yeah, and so we tap on the meridian pressure points
Okay.
of the body. So there's 8 points that I do when I do tapping,
Okay.
and it is a way to rewire the brain,
Okay.
because after so many years of being in toxic relationships with the gaslighting, you're constantly confused
Yes.
of what your reality is, and the manipulation, the
Right.
criticisms, the little critiques, the little things, they start to go into your brain and they wire your brain a certain way.
Yeah.
And so, getting out of these relationships, we have to rewire our thought process. We have to rewire our brain. We have to
Hmm.
shut off that that voice of
Yes.
them in our head saying,
Right.
no one will ever love you. You will never find anyone better than me.
Right.
You're fat, you're ugly, you're this and that.
Right.
And so we have to shut that voice off
Hmm.
and we have to rewire the brain. And so that's what EFT does. Um, and so when I'm working with people,
Mm-hmm.
the first round is like you were saying, where are you feeling this in your body?
Yeah.
For some people, it's in their heart, we have broken hearts, or for some, it's in their
Yes.
their solar plexus or in their lower back,
Yeah.
wherever the trauma is located in your body. And then the first round is we really just sit with those emotions. So for instance, maybe guilt is coming up.
Okay.
Guilt because I stayed too long. Guilt because um, I feel like my kids are messed up because he did so many, the negative
Right.
talk to my children. Guilt because I should have left sooner, whatever it
Right.
is. And
Right.
so with EFT, we really sit. It is a safe place for you to just sit
Mm-hmm.
and kind of vent through all these emotions. And as we're venting,
Yes.
we're tapping on these meridian points because believe it or not, there's shifts happening in your brain.
Yes.
And so we do a couple rounds of that, and then we do the release rounds.
Okay.
And so, the release round would be, well, maybe I could let go of this guilt. Maybe I could release all this guilt from my body, from my lower back,
Uh-huh.
and just start releasing it and letting it go.
And can I ask, you were saying maybe, do you do that so that if they're not quite sure if they want to?
Mhm.
Okay. So it's
Yes,
really
and
it's really whatever you're feeling or that your client
mhm,
is feeling. Okay.
yep, and I don't use my words. I
Yes.
use my clients' words, and
Yes.
so we'll talk, and they will
Right.
um, tell me their words,
Yes.
and then I just speak their words back.
Okay.
And sometimes things do come up. I am intuitive in some
Right.
things, and so if I get a message or feel something, I'll say something and just say, does
Mhm.
this resonate with you?
Yes.
Um, and so I do my tapping a little different than most of the stuff you would see on YouTube. So I
Oh,
do
okay.
a third round. So the third round is tapping into the woman you want to become.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
And so this is like, I am strong. I am
Hmm.
brave. I am a good mom. I am beautiful. I
Yeah.
deserve love.
Right.
All the positive stuff, because for so long we've been told the negative. So we
Yes.
need a lot of the positive
Right.
affirmations.
flipping those flipping those things, maybe even some of the practices I've been doing are, what are some of the negatives, and then flipping to what are the positives that I know about myself, or even that I I want to be more,
Become.
yes, become. That's been a practice. I do tapping as well. I love it. It's been really helpful for me. Um, sometimes I I feel like
I tap all
I'm
day
gonna break
long.
my collarbone, I'm like, oh
Same
my
here.
God. Because when there's anxiety, one of the other, because I do another, I don't know what the other tapping is, but anyway, some of them are like, I hate being anxious. It's like, I'm gonna break
It's
my collarbone.
well, I always explain tapping like it's a conversation.
It is, yes.
It's a conversation with yourself. But until you've done enough
Yes.
to know how to do it, I really suggest people do, 5 to 10 to really, really get in
Yeah.
there. And then, I give you that tool and that gift for you, and you continue doing that on your own. But
Yes,
I
exactly.
tap in the car,
I
I
do too. I
tap
love tapping in the car.
everywhere.
I don't know if God's in the car or what, because I feel like it's a good time. There's nothing else distracting me. I can't be on my phone, anything like that. Of course, I can listen to podcasts, but when I have a long drive, I'm going across town. I love just turning everything off and I just pray, or I'll be something will come to my mind, because in your car you can have quiet, right? I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
unless you have a car full of kids, but but you can have quiet if you're by yourself. And so it almost forces you to start thinking about things, and I don't mind doing that. And the other day I had a long drive and I stopped and I was like, I turned off my radio and I was like just talking to God. I was tapping some stuff out. It was so great. I'm like, this was a really productive drive. I felt
Yes.
so good.
No, I do it all the time. As you know, if I'm driving across town as well, my I have a toddler. He falls asleep in the car all the time. And
Yeah.
so it really is during the day my only time.
Yes.
So sometimes I'll just go for a drive because I know he'll fall asleep, and then I have my quiet time and my time to myself
Yes.
to do all of this. Um, but it's so helpful, and it's just a way that um, can rapidly heal you. It's like
Yes.
it is a rapid technique, and actually
Yes.
it's been scientifically proven
Right.
to help survivors of PTSD.
Yes.
Instead of doing 2 years of therapy, it's like
Yes.
you can do 2 years of therapy in 3 months, you
Well, and
know,
then
and
the nice thing I have found is I like it to have I like different modalities, and so I do talk
Mhm.
therapy, but then I started doing tapping. I do some other things. For me, it just was another thing to add to my arsenal that made me feel better and not just, because yes, talk therapy. I love talk therapy. I've been in talk therapy forever. But it was just like, what else can I do? How, like even I was talking to someone who does trauma informed intuitive movement. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh, is this why I just like to just dance or whatever or go for a walk? She's like, yeah, because we have to move our body and get it out of us. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
and it
yes.
doesn't have to be for a recital and it doesn't have to be or whatever, So she's going to be on my show because I was like so fascinated by that because this is another modality for us to touch those
Hmm.
things that are stuck inside of us. And I feel like if you're on the same, let's say, quote unquote, problem, right? If you're still stuck in that pattern or you're still stuck in one modality, maybe it's time to look at something else and see if something can help you move forward a little bit quicker.
Yes, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. And I always tell people, like, we have the keys to unlock our healing and our
Yes.
potential and our empowerment, but it's just you need the tools. And if you don't have
Right.
the tools, here is EFT is one tool that can go in your
Yes.
toolbox.
Yes.
So dance, what you're saying, that's another tool. Breath work, another tool.
Yes.
Meditation, another tool.
Right.
And so we do need these tools because we're not meant to do this on our own and to suffer on our own.
Yes. You know, but okay, so this is really going to take vulnerability. It's going to take that first step is really saying, I have to, like, you have to be aware. You have to be self-aware. I'm stuck. I feel stuck. I feel like I'm crying about the same thing. If you're still crying about something and it's years later, like you're constantly triggered. Because I was learning the other day, I was like, can I tap through this because I'm sick of being triggered about this particular thing, and yes I did, and now I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
because it was stuck, and I'm like, I don't like it that every time I think about this thing I'm crying because it's like I want to like move forward. And so
Mhm.
it's been so, oh my gosh, it's been so great to like have these different tools in my toolbox.
Yeah.
But I just want to encourage people to, it's going to take that vulnerability just with yourself. You don't have to make an announcement to anybody, right? You don't have to do anything. Just saying, like, I need to stop and be quiet and go, yeah, I still have something to work on. I still have patterns I want to work on, or I have trauma I can feel in the pit of my stomach or in my heart that I want to work on. That's really, the first step is admitting we have a problem. I don't
Right?
mean I don't mean to make light of that, but it's true. I mean, we do. Sometimes we're like we just think we're fooling ourselves when our body's like screaming for help. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and for me, when I couldn't see and when I felt like I really needed to see my story through a different lens.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was sitting here like, oh, thank you, husband number one. You were such an incredible teacher. No, it was like, F you, this fucking
Right.
sucks. I hate
Right.
this,
Right.
but let me sit down and do this because I don't
Yes.
want to be stuck. I don't want to go into a third marriage or a third relationship with
Yes.
all of this. And
Yeah.
so, you if you want to heal yourself, you have to be willing to face yourself
Yes.
and you have to be willing to get still
Right.
and get quiet. Get a journal. I know you make journals. I saw
Yes.
that.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm
I
I'm a
I
huge journaler and I've been doing it my entire life.
and it's too bad that on Amazon they don't show the insides because many of my journals I have like specific prompts for like I have blank ones because I love to journal just blank.
Yeah,
But I have some that have prompts so that you don't even have to think about it. Like you can literally sit down and just get prompted to write something out, to write your list of gratitude, things that you want for the day, to start people on their journey. To me, it's almost like I like to journal even when I pray because
yeah, same.
it's a great way to me to get it out of me. And this kind of, excuse me for interrupting you, but this kind of reminds me of something you said earlier about that it's a safe place. This is a conversation that came up with somebody, and and I very much am a journaler that, okay, look, when I'm dead, I don't care if you read my journals because I'll be dead. I won't care. But I journal like no one's going to read it because hopefully no one is going to be reading them, right? I say whatever I want. I call my ex-husband a fucker, whatever I do, want to do. You know what I mean? Like I say whatever I want to say because I'm hurt. I want it out of my body. I don't know
Yeah.
how else to tell people get it out of your body. There's a reason you have back pain, heart pain, whatever. Your
Mhm.
body is telling you what's wrong. But you were talking about a safe place. And I have friends who don't know what that means. I'm surprised that people are like, "What does that mean, a safe place?" So, I want to just kind of talk about that. To me, a safe place, like if I say we were close enough, that I would say like Stephanie's a safe place for me to talk to. If
Mhm.
I go to therapy with, if I go to do EFT with Stephanie, she's a safe place. Why? And this is what I think of, and you can tell me if it's otherwise. You're not telling anyone else, you're not posting it, you're not spreading my business elsewhere. It's keeping it between you and me. Do you
Yeah,
Okay,
yep,
so
absolutely. And as you know, I mean, as my background as an attorney,
yes,
it's like, it's confidential.
right.
I don't tell anyone anything. I don't even use other people's stories because I have 17 years of my own stories.
Right.
I don't, I don't need, I have, you've been through that? Guess
Yes.
what? I've been through it too.
Right,
I
exactly.
don't need anyone else's stories,
Right.
and when I also say safe place as well, it's uh, be somewhere where you feel comfortable and safe. Go into your bedroom, lock the door.
Yes.
Don't let the kids come in. Have that time where
Yeah.
you're crying, where you're on the ground,
Yes.
whatever it is. Get your
Yes.
journal, write, and write from a place of vulnerability because,
Yes.
like you said, I don't want to carry around
Yeah.
all of this trauma and all of this stuff. And I was actually reading one of my journals from when I first left my second husband, and it's like, oh, it's just so sad.
Yes.
It's so sad. But you can see, or I could see last night how far
Yes.
I've come on my own healing journey.
Yes. I'm
Uh,
doing that right now too. I'm actually looking through them because it's been about a year since we've been divorced, and how broken I was. And as sad as it is to read those, right? We can just like rejoice and be so happy, congratulate ourselves where we are now because a year later, I'm a completely different person. Like a
yes,
completely different person. And I'm so
same.
thankful that I journaled it so I can see, because we're not going to remember every emotion we felt and everything. And so it really helps to look back and go, man, I was sad, or man, I was bitter or whatever, and then now look and see, oh my gosh, I'm doing so much better. I've made progress.
Hey, I know. No, I was thinking that same thing as well. Like I'm glad I journal and write,
Yeah.
because even now, as I'm kind of getting more into speaking and sharing my story, I've
Yeah.
been able to go back through and just pull out little pieces from my journal that
Great. Yeah.
would resonate with people,
Yes.
and they can see like this is where I was stuck and this is how I was able to
Right.
get unstuck from this one particular thing.
That's really good because that's going to help because I'm surprised and then I'm not surprised. I'm actually getting to the point where I'm no longer surprised that because people will be like, "Oh, I listened to your episode and and that was my story." I heard your story. That was my story because unfortunately, or fortunately, with narcissists, they all, work out of the same playbook. We all have a different experience with the things they said to us. Some people, had their ex maybe hit them or those kinds of things. But for the most part, we almost have like a playbook. I really say like they're all playing out of the same playbook. I was able to call every single thing that my ex has done.
Mm-hmm.
I was a and my kids are like, "Well, you called it, mom." Well, yeah, because they're all working from the same playbook.
Yeah, yeah. There's no surprises.
There's not. And okay, so as it's amazing to me. So that's why awareness, that's why I wanted to be like, let's get awareness to people who don't even know, because I have met people who are like, oh, what's that? What does that mean? I didn't know what the word narcissist was until like 2 years ago. And now I'm
Yeah.
like a freaking expert. I have a PhD in narcissism. It's so ridiculous.
Well, and that's part of our healing is
Yes.
understanding who this person was,
Yes.
because they put up this facade that, like my second ex-husband,
Yes.
he liked being a mystery. And so it was
Oh,
like, as soon as I thought I figured him out, he would just completely
yes.
reinvent himself and he's this other person. And it's like,
Oh,
God damn it, what the? It was so
yes.
confusing.
Yes.
And then it's confusing when you don't, like you said, I mean, maybe it's not physical, but with the gaslighting. And
Yes.
gaslighting means that it's where they do certain things to make you question your reality.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
he did that all the time.
All the time
And
for me
so
too.
you feel like you're going crazy because it's like, no, and I'm a journaler. So I could go back in my journals and be
Yeah.
like, no, it didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
It happened like this. But he just, the constant gaslighting and the manipulation, sometimes you don't know exactly what's going on, but you know something's not right. Because
Right.
that's how my second marriage was.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know what's going on. And it was 2020 as well. And so, the world was a little mad and all this stuff. So it was very confusing for me,
Yes. Yes. And I
you
don't know
know?
how you felt, but because we had never all been in a worldwide pandemic, right? I felt disoriented just from that. And so it was almost like he could have done anything during that time, and he did. But he could have done anything during that time. I was already so disoriented by, am I living? Am I dying? Is my family and my friends okay? Like toilet paper, this, you know what I mean? Like you're so
Yeah.
disoriented from 2020. I just remember the way, and he was um an essential worker. So he would just be like, okay, bye, like nothing, like I'm like panicking, you know what I mean? So at that time I felt like he could have done anything, and he did, to because my brain was already mush.
Yeah. No, it was so confusing. And that's why I was like, is this his true typical nature, or is it just exacerbated because we're in COVID and everyone's just
Right.
like,
Everybody's, yeah.
anxious and all this stuff? But no,
Right.
it was truly him. But they like to create an atmosphere of
Yes.
like chaos, drama, and trauma.
Right.
It's like,
And making the drama, making it drama, but then, somehow you're the one who's dramatic or whatever. I like
mhm,
the idea of journaling. I've been a journaler forever since I had a diary, when I was 10 or whatever. I love journaling. I have lots of journals. I think about some journals that I threw away because I was embarrassed at some of the things that it said in there. I think about it. It makes me sad. But that's okay. It just I think I didn't have that self-confidence even then to be like, that this is my story and this is where I am in my life. It was almost embarrassing because I wasn't further along or whatever that meant. You know what I mean? Like I just had some, and so I regret that I threw some of those away. But I remember even looking back, and I have everything packed because I live with my brother at this time. I have everything packed, and I think about some of my journals. I'm like, I want to go back and read some of those journals because I felt like even though I wrote it down, I still didn't believe myself because he told me it didn't happen that way.
mm,
And it just it's so crazy. the I
it's,
really did feel like I was going insane at the end. I
no,
really did.
I did too in both my marriages.
Yeah.
Even my, my first one, he's more of a covert narcissist, and his was cheating.
Yeah.
His was he liked to stay up all night drinking and chatting with women online.
Okay.
And eventually he left for another woman. But the same thing, I would be like, you were doing this last night. No, I wasn't.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you catch
I'm
him
like, it's
red-handed.
right here. I have your whole chat log. That no, that wasn't me.
That that's so crazy. Some of the I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean,
It's
it's
crazy.
and some of those are some of the red flags that we should point out, the if you're feeling I really did feel like I was going crazy. I wanted to check myself into a mental institution because I really did feel like I was going crazy, which when I think about that, I want to cry for that poor woman who had been made to feel like a crazy person. I felt I just was so low, but then I finally, was like, I gotta go. And I didn't know exactly what was happening, but I had to go. And, those are red flags that every single thing is a problem, that you're the only person who's a problem, despite the
Mhm.
fact that maybe they are doing things I caught my ex red-handed with certain things and it's like he still denied it. And because I
Yeah,
wasn't in a healthy place, I just allowed it. That's the thing is I just kept allowing it, which is what they want. They want you to keep allowing things. They keep trying things.
yeah,
And if you keep allowing it, then they just keep doing it because you're allowing it. And that's part of getting our power back, right?
yeah,
Healing, and getting our knowing our worth and our value. This
yeah.
thing I'm worth. Yeah,
I was just going to say that that goes back to what I was saying about
yeah,
the unworthiness,
right,
because it's just like that. Like we we're allowing it
right,
essentially,
yeah,
you know. And so when you can go back and sit and see your story through a different lens and shift that perspective and then go back and look at the lessons of, I didn't know it was an unworthiness thing
right,
until I was able to go back. And then, I had my journal and I just started with my first marriage and said, okay, I'm just going to say, so thank you, Josh, for showing me how important boundaries are.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that it is not my responsibility to be someone else's boundaries. I was his boundaries,
Okay.
so I didn't have my own boundaries, but I became the boundaries police for him.
Oh, okay.
Because he had no boundaries. He kept going outside of the marriage, kept
Right.
doing all these things. And so it's like, I'm confronting all these women. Stop chatting with my husband.
Oh,
He's married. Stop doing this. And so, it's like, I can look at it and
right.
say, thank you, Josh, for showing me I can't be anyone else's boundaries. I have to have my own firm,
Yes.
strong boundaries.
Yes.
And so when I went into my second marriage, I had boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But guess what he did? He kept pushing them
Yeah.
and pushing them and pushing them. And they were just little pushes,
Right.
not big ones.
That's
But I kept
it's very
giving him more.
microaggressions,
Mhm.
microaggressions.
Yep, and giving him more and giving him more. And so, when I made the shift, I could go back and say, thank you, Jace. Even though I had boundaries, I was not firm in my boundaries.
Okay.
So you have showed me that I must be firm. And if anyone pushes up against the boundaries, it is a deal breaker for me.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
good. So those are the things you reflected on. Um,
Mhm.
what I saw a great example yesterday about boundaries is not telling somebody, you can't do that to me, right? It's about us saying, I will not be participating in this if, like, say, you're speaking to me that way or whatever it is, right? And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, it's a great way to remember, especially for people who don't know how to set boundaries, who've never set a boundary, to say, I will not be participating in this if you continue, whatever, say, speaking to me that way, rather than saying, you can't talk to me that way, you have to be respectful. No, that people don't want to be controlled, especially people who have benefited from you not having boundaries. We have to remember, what is it that I want? And I had someone ask me a question a few days ago, and I said, no, I'm sorry, I won't be participating in that. And they were like, well, but I just want you to do this. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I won't be participating in that.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
me, not them.
yeah. Well, and I started doing that um toward towards the end of my second marriage. Um
Okay.
he would always try to engage me in these conversations, but I'm like, I will not have a discussion with you if you are drunk, if you've been drinking,
Okay.
if you've done all these things. And I told him, I'm like, I will just walk away.
Yeah.
And I started to do that because at night, when he's been drinking and all this stuff, he wants to get in these arguments. And I say,
Right.
we can have this discussion tomorrow morning when you are sober,
Yeah.
and I'm going to bed.
Right. And you are saying, I'm not going to participate in this. It's like he can do whatever he wants, but you're saying you're not going to participate in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Stephanie, I just love the way, you rewrote your story with not as a victim, but as a hero, right? The hero of your own story. Um
Mm-hmm.
we're breaking the cycles, right? For our families, for our children.
Yeah, for
So that
herself.
yes, yes. For reals. Like, but the ripple effect we will have, even if we don't have children, right? The ripple effect we will have. We were talking about that last night. I was talking about that with some good friends, and we said the ripple effect of you, making a positive change in your life. You don't know who you're going to impact, who's going to hear your story and resonate. I know people are going to resonate with your story. So, tell me, what you're doing now, where you're at.
Yeah, so right now I'm actually creating a safe container, a program where I would like to have 10 women, and it's a 12-week accelerated um, healing container where we have the support of the 10 women. And I'm just going to walk you through the steps that I took to heal myself.
Wow.
And so there is EFT involved. There's a lot of journaling involved. There is a safe support group of the 10 women. And so that's for 10 weeks. And then afterwards, because I'm really big into, we're going to do the internal work. And we've been saying, let's be empowered, let's have confidence, let's do all this.
Right.
And so we're going to step out in our bravery. And I'm going to take these 10 women to Peru
Oh
and
my gosh.
do the Inca Trail. So I
Wow.
used to lead college students all over the world on humanitarian trips. I've been to almost 50 countries, and I've led lots of groups. Um, and so there's something really empowering when you can, you say you want to be empowered, and we've been tapping on it and doing all these things. So,
Yes.
okay, well, we're going to go to another country. We're going to do something very physically hard.
Wow.
The Inca Trail is hard. It's not impossible. I've done it.
Yeah.
And go up there because there's something very sacred about the mountains up there and the ruins.
Yeah.
I want to do some tapping, some releasing of things up there. Um, and just really, it's just a very empowering trip. And so that's why I want to keep it small and just keep it with 10. So we'll do the Inca Trail, and that'll be in January. It's one of the best times to do the Inca Trail.
Wow.
And then you'll have this tight group of people who've been through everything with you. I mean, these will be your support
Yeah.
group. And so I'm putting that together. And I am my plan is for the 9th of October to launch it.
Hmm.
Um, so that way we can have the full 12 weeks and then do the Inca Trail. But it is such a empowering little journey.
That is amazing. Wow, that is really
Yeah.
amazing. There is something about that, right? That you're doing this thing that's like you said, it's hard, but it's not impossible. And my gosh, the empowerment you guys will feel after you do that, that'll be I won't be joining you, but that sounds great.
Yes, yes. And when I went and did this by myself, I
Yes.
did it by myself. Um,
Wow.
I had little kids at home, but you know what? I have grandparents, and I have uh they have aunts and uncles. So, I was able to go for 12 days and
Yeah.
go on my own and have this journey. But I just feel like it's so powerful.
That
And
is so
that's what
powerful.
I want to practice what we're preaching. What
Yes.
we're going to do the internal work, and then we're going to go out and we're going to do it as well. I still haven't come up with like what is that? We're doing the internal work, and then we're
Right.
going.
Doing something.
Right.
I'm sure you'll figure it out. And we'll have all of your information in the show notes so that people can reach out to you. And so I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your story, helping us heal. And thank you for just turning your story around for us and showing us how it's better on the other side. Even still in the middle of the mess, there's still work to be done, but there's the goodness over there as well. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's it's a great conversation. I feel like we could just talk all
I
day.
know. I'm telling well, you might have to do like a seminar or something because I'm telling you, there's something about getting together with women in even in a virtual setting or whatever, to talk about your stories and talk about healing. I love talking about those kinds of things. That's where I feel alive because I was so, what I say, dead for a long time, dead inside. I felt like there had to be more to life, and there is, that it just comes with that healing. You don't have to go through a narcissistic relationship. Healing can happen for whatever you whatever's
Mhm.
going on. And the tapping is good for everything. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it really is. So I will have all your information in the show notes so
Okay.
people can reach out to you and connect with you. And if this episode resonated with you at all, if you could please go to social media and check out Stephany. We'll have a picture of Stephany for social media. We'll have social media everywhere. And just if it resonated with you, I hope you'll reach out. Of course, leave an Apple review. And just thank you so much for being here, Stephany. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And we'll talk to you soon. See you guys next time. Hold on, because I don't know how to end my recording.